created us, who loves us the most, and nothing that you can do can ever make him love you any less, any more. Can we give him just about 30 seconds of our undivided attention as we sing this chorus? With our hands to the heavens today. Surrendering everything that we're feeling, that we're facing, that we're wrestling with, knowing that he is sovereign, he is higher, we can trust him. Come on, let's worship him. Every voice, every hand, you take it away. So I throw up my head, praise you again. All that I have is a hallelujah. Hallelujah. I know it's not much, but nothing else is for me. One more time. So I throw up my head, praise you again. All that I have is hallelujah. Hallelujah. And I know it's not nothing else is for me. Except for us singing hallelujah. Okay, let's try this again. I could hear the audio. There is Viva. Okay, no mic. What would be the problem in terms of not hearing me right now? Sorry, let me figure this out. I don't know why this is happening. Press play. Oh, this is getting very annoying. Oh, now you can hear me? Okay, good. Let me Okay, good. Yeah, it's tinny and you can hear me. Okay, good. Sorry about that. So I don't know what time it is. We've been up for 13 hours. I got woken up by Robert. Oh, so that was his dog. I'm staying at an Airbnb with Robert Gouveia, his fiance, their beautiful dog, who is a wicked smart dog. And the joke I said was that dog is my dog now because I love that dog. And I'm so not used to seeing a dog like walking and a dog not peeing and crapping all over the house. So we had the Charlie Kirk memorial today, and it was quite an interesting event. First of all, that opening song or that opening video was at the memorial. It was at the stadium where the Arizona, not Diamondbacks, the football team, the Arizona, some animal of a name of a football team. It was a full stadium. There were a couple of sections that were empty. I think they didn't want to seat people in certain areas. 65,000 people in that stadium, from what I understand. The Cardinals. Thank you. I knew it was an animal. They always name teams after animals. So it was the stadium was full. We wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which oddly enough was 7 o'clock my time because I'm still on East Coast time, so it didn't feel that bad. We walk all the way to the stadium, which was, I don't know, a couple of miles. I jogged it back to get back here to get this live stream up and live. And we get there at about 5 in the morning. Traffic coming in, it was just, if you came in a vehicle, it was just bumper to bumper. And if you were following my Twitter feed all day, I was posting as much updates as I could without, trying to feel bad. It's like it's a memorial and not a. It's a memorial, but it did feel like a celebration. But you still you feel kind of guilty or dirty, like smiling and yucking it up at a memorial. There were so many people there. Like everybody was panicking that they weren't going to get in. We started waiting in line, and there was no clear line. There was no blame. I mean, they had to put this entire event up in a week, and there were, I think, over 100 and some odd thousand people between the main stadium and the overflow stadium. We start waiting in line. Nobody knows what's going on. Just a parking lot sea of people at 5 in the morning. Nothing's happening. Everybody's standing around just waiting to see where they go in for about 3.5 hours. By about 9 o'clock, we start making our way, squiggling around. If anybody saw the feed, I got up on top of a dumpster, and you could see the sea of people. Nobody really knew where to go, but everybody was funneling into one narrow corridor to get to security. After 4 hours of waiting in the open parking lot, luckily there was overcast. There were about 6 medical emergencies. There was like somebody calling medic every 20 minutes. We finally get into the second part, and then we're like, oh my goodness, we're going to get into the stadium, go through security, and the stadium was packed. The ground level was VIPs, so it wasn't quite as packed. And it was a very religious and a very spiritual event. Now, everybody knows, I brought up the joke that said, number one Jew, haha. I come from a Jewish household. We're my parents, we're all Jewish. I'm just not particularly practicing, and I have my own internal struggles with organized religion. But set that aside, my mother, she's still alive, so when I say used to, it's only because she used to sing in a choir. I think it was called the Ron Am Choir, and they sang all the Christian music. And my mother always said, the church got the best music. It's like, and I texted my mother. I was like, listen to this. How does this not make someone want to convert? Like, you go to this thing and you hear this beautiful music. It's like, it was like amazing. I don't want to say rock music because it was better than rock music. It was sort of like explosions in the sky level music. And you hear 65,000 people singing in unison to what is only and objectively a beautiful message. It could have been any religion. It could have been any similar message of peace and love. And it's like, it's tough not to, like, you do feel it. There's an energy of 65,000 voices in unison, channeling an energy of love and positivity. The event itself, I hope, yeah. But so hold on, Barnes is coming. Barnes, we're on for tonight, because tomorrow night even I'm flying back to Florida tomorrow, and I'm not sure what time I'm going to get back. So Messianic Jews are a thing as well. My issue is with the organized element of religion, and not with spirituality, and not with intelligent design, and not with the creator, and not with any of that. It's I don't like clubs, any clubs, even clubs that I am proclaimed to be a part of. But it wasn't just any religion. It was a Christian amen. It was beautiful. So after waiting for about 4 hours in an open parking lot in the hot Arizona air with a bit of an overcast, we get into the stadium, and then we wait while they're playing music until the speakers start coming up. And I'm gonna forget some of the speakers, but there was Don Jr., Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio gave a great speech. J.D. Vance, Tucker Carlson gave a great speech. I posted that one. Tulsi Gabbard was amazing. Susie Wiles, there was an odd, quiet, a hush. Nobody booed. Everyone was very respectful. But let's just say that the crowd cheered harder for certain speakers than others. But it was an amazing event. But I'm just watching the responses and the reactions to the memorial. Erica Kirk talked. She spoke, and it probably just my projection. It's probably just my projection that there was a touching moment where she says she has to forgive Charlie Kirk's assassin because that's what that's what Jesus would want and what Jesus would expect. And she cited the verse as Jesus is on the cross, and he says, "Forgive them, Father; they know not what they do." And you can sort of understand that. There's zero question that this assassin, living in his own silo of insanity and evil and hatred, knows not what he does, and he knows not what he did. And when you sit there and you see 100,000 people mourning in the loss of someone, and you realize like it's not to say that you have more people show up at your funeral that you're a more valuable or that you were a more valuable person. In fact, some people who have never met a great many people in personal lives would still have reached that many people. And there is something to be said about the fact that hundreds of thousands of people came out to the event and that millions were watching. The numbers we were just checking on CommieTube and the numbers on Rumble were, mind-boggling. And you appreciate how many people Charlie Kirk actually reached, touched, influenced for the good, and that this kid, I will use the word evil degenerate, just no idea what he did, no idea or appreciation of what he stole from the world. And so like you can definitely appreciate the idea, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. But like someone said over here, firing squad and then forgiveness, maybe. But then I'm sitting there thinking like you can forgive, but only once people have atoned and when people come to the realization of what they have done, which I'm not sure that he's there yet. And I do wonder if this degenerate, mentally ill kid is going to wake up in the middle of the night to the screams of Charlie Kirk's family and genuinely fathom and appreciate what he has done and what he stole from the world. But the event, touch wood, went off without any issues. Tulsi Gabbard, Susie Wiles, Erica, Don Jr. spoke, and now you see the people on the interwebs spinning this event for content without naming names, because some of them need not be named because forgive them, Father, they know not what they do, but I don't want to have anything to do with these scumbag evil people who take the opportunity of peaceful, beautiful, spiritual mourning to say it looked like a Nazi rally. Like you have to be a special level of evil to look at something so innocent and see something so bad. And then others casting doubt on whether or not this was a political event and trying to frame J.D. Vance as the next president of these United States of America. First of all, Charlie Kirk didn't need to get murdered for that to happen. J.D. Vance is, and not being framed as he is going to be, if things work out the way they should, the next president after Donald Trump, because he's an amazing man with a populist spirit who understands politics and the people and understands America. But people suggesting that this is being exploited to frame J.D. Vance as the next presidential candidate, as if he needed it, and as if he and Charlie Kirk weren't extremely close friends. It is amazing to celebrate a legacy of what Charlie Kirk did. He was 31 years young, and that's to say he's had 31 years on this earth. Five of which, as with all of us, is spent like crapping your diapers and sucking at your mama's boobies. First 5 years, you're not even conscious. Next 5 years, you're as conscious as like a chimpanzee with a tire, just throwing things around and being an idiot kid. 10 to 15, you're somewhat conscious and you start developing that aspect of your identity. But Charlie Kirk really had 16 years of insight, wisdom, maturity. And let's just say 13 of those were probably productive. And in those 13 years, it's not an exaggeration to say that he changed the world. It's not an exaggeration to say that he saved America. So I'm running back from the event in pants. I got a new pair of shoes, but not running shoes. And I was thinking Trump was the last one to speak, and Trump was going on for a while about the election and how Charlie was pivotal in Trump winning the election. Charlie was pivotal in the last couple of years of reaching the youth and bringing them over to conservative values, making them appreciate the beauty of family and religion. Whether you agree with it or not, there's value to it when done properly. And Trump was saying at one point, after they won 2024, and we've seen the viral moment, or I say viral, it makes it sound very cheap. We saw the moment when Charlie understood that Trump had won, and he was brought to tears. And it's not just that Trump won the election after all of the hard work that Charlie put in. It's that Trump won the election after surviving an assassination attempt by the skin of his ear flap. And Charlie, pivotal in Trump winning that election, but for Charlie, Trump may not win. But for the wind, a slight of his head, Trump survives that. And then Charlie's the one who gets assassinated after Trump gets elected. If Trump gets assassinated on July 13th, Charlie lives. But Trump is not president. America is under Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, or I dare say even worse, Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo. And so it's this sick irony that if July 13, if the bullet had caught its mark, Charlie Kirk is alive, but America is on a different track. Trump survives, America's on the track to rehabilitation, and now Charlie Kirk is the one, under similar circumstances, who gets killed. And the world is deprived of another 50 years of Charlie Kirk, a man who would have been, not the next president, but a president of these United States of America. So it was, someone said, Erica says she forgives, and I think she has to forgive in order to move on with her own life, and not move on, forgive and forget, but just to move on and not be tied down with an anger that would be destructive of her. This guy already, destroyed the family, killed Charlie Kirk, deprived America of one of the greatest conservative figures of our time. Erica still got a life to live, and she still got kids to raise. And holding on to that hatred might be something that would compromise and cause her to suffer as compared to the life that she needs to live for the kids that she has in the life that she's going to have now. And so maybe it's a selfish forgiveness. Maybe it's not a true forgiveness, but rather a forgiveness to force yourself to forgive and live your life to the fullest that you can right now. But that's what happened today, people. Till Barnes gets in here. Dan Sundin says people started coming to the event at 1 a.m. People, apparently they were not allowed being there earlier than midnight last night. So up until midnight, they were kicking people out. I think they wanted to secure the area. And then people were basically there as of 1 o'clock in the morning. Forced Name Change says, maybe it's just me, but I think Tucker's speech really hit the nail on the head better than most. Well, absolutely. This is another thing, which is just, so two things, because I'm neurotically insightful neurotically, whenever I say something about someone else, I ask if it's true of myself. When I look at Erica, and she's mourning and grieving in a way that none of us can possibly imagine, and we wouldn't want to know in our worst nightmares. I she I mean I might just be projecting my own anger into her expressions, but I think I feel. I mean, there should be anger. There has to be anger. And then I forget what I was about to say about that projection. I forget, but it was Tucker Carlson. People coming out and accusing Tucker Carlson of anti-Semitism. So Tucker, in his speech, and it was amazing. Tucker's a great speaker. He's a very wise person. He's got a bit of a quirky laugh, and he lets it rip. But he came out and he said, I'm not sure that I agree that when they hold on, Barnes says his computer's no worries. Tucker comes out, he says, like when they kill you to shut you up, they don't extinguish the flame, it burns brighter. I'm not sure. I can't convince myself of that cliche, but one thing that is certain, and Tucker talked about it, he said, when it came to the time of Jesus, he's like, I want to tell you a story. It's 2,500 years old, about a guy who couldn't stop telling the truth, and they had to shut him up. And he's talking about Jesus. And then he says, and these guys had the great idea. They say, and he's joking. He's like, it's the worst idea, but it's the one they always come up with. They sit in a room and they say, why don't we kill him? They say, let's kill him and expect that to stifle the message, expect it to suppress the message. And what he said is that when you kill the messenger, you don't kill the message, and it does get amplified in ways that not killing the individual to shut them up would never have happened. Imagine this. This is the beauty. Like, the thing is, nobody really ever beat Charlie in an argument. I'm sure someone could have given Charlie a run for his money, but no one ever actually beat Charlie in an argument, and that's why the people who can't win with their words try to win with their fists or their bullets. But you imagine, like, there is an amplification that is going to be felt and reverberate for a very, very long time. One of the expressions that was the common theme, but actually, I don't know if it just so happened that a few speakers made the same message, which was that when the tyrant dies, his tyranny is over. When the martyr dies, his martyrdom when the tyrant dies, his rule is over. When the martyr is martyred, his rule just begins. And it is an amazing thing. Like, the term martyr has a bit of a connotation to it. But one thing is obvious, and one thing is clear, that what we refer to as martyrdom causes the message to be amplified and reverberate in ways that would never have happened had the person not been killed and not been made into a martyr. In a more superficial way, sometimes albums don't sell until the artist passes away, and then they sell for whatever the reason, but they sell exponentially more copies than they would have had the artist not tragically died from a drug overdose. Had someone just been able to beat Charlie Kirk in an argument, that would have been the best way to shut him up and to shut the message up. Just beat him in an argument. As it is now, his martyrdom, because it is a form of modern day martyrdom, is almost evidence to the righteousness of the message, and is going to cause it to be amplified in ways that would have never happened had he merely just continued going to campuses. And so in that sense, Tucker Carlson made a great speech, a great point, which is silencing the speech does not quell the speech and does not counter the message. It amplifies it in ways that can never be amplified otherwise. Flip side is, I'm sure if you asked, I don't know, I can't purport to know if you asked, but it would have been better if Charlie had been alive for 50 years, become a next president, continue with the years of imparting not conservative values, but values on American boys and young men, so that they go out, get married, have kids, lead meaningful lives, and don't get lost in the nihilism and superficiality of whatever the hell it is that is afflicting the youth of today. But now people are accusing Tucker Carlson of anti-Semitic messaging. So someone actually says, I don't know who it was. Gouveia shows it to me on his Twitter feed. He's like, someone's accusing Tucker of having suggested that Jews killed Jesus in his speech. First of all, I didn't get that. Second of all, we understand the history of what happened. So yeah, there's that. Forced name change. Okay, let's see what we can't fix the nation unless we fix ourselves first. There was that message as well. Forced name change. The amount of people watching this in real time was wild. Pasha Moyer says, Viva, you said that one cannot forgive until the perpetrator had atoned for the sin. I feel that way too, but I need to remember that in the very example of that Mrs. Kirk cited, Jesus forgave his executioners before they atoned for their sin. I guess we need to remember that justice or mercy will definitely happen someday. Was it Tucker that said that also? He said, when you die, you go to heaven, you want justice or mercy? It was justice or grace. Geez, I forget who said that. But they said that you'd want grace, and that's what the lesson of Jesus dying for our sins was. Domestic Blend seems to be a member of the community. Welcome, Domestic, welcome to the channel. And Stingray says, will we learn tomorrow during the announcement that a vaccine causes autism, or will it be downplayed? There was a bomb threat on RFK Jr.'s home. Hopefully they didn't get to him. Hold on a second. So at the end of Trump's speech, he said that there's going to be a big announcement tomorrow, that they think they found a cause for autism, that they might be able to attenuate the severity. We'll see what that report is. Considering that you will never be able to prove causation over correlation to those who don't want to accept it. So we'll see what it is. The whole argument. It's been a continually moving goalpost on the vaccination arguments. Remember, they said it was whatever it was that was in vaccines back in the day as the adjuvant, and they took it out, but not because it did anything bad, just as a precaution. And they say, oh, well, after we took that out, when people were complaining about it, autism didn't go down, so it couldn't have been that, so you're all complaining for nothing. Then they say, oh, mercury in there or aluminum. Well, it's less than your dietary intake of mercury or aluminum. It's a perpetual moving goalpost, but we'll see what the study is. All that I know is that in terms of demonizing the individual, which is like, it's not a physical execution, but it's sort of like a reputational execution. Who is the guy that did the original study correlating vaccines to autism? Someone in the chat's going to get it. The amount of demonization of that man, that study, and anybody who ever suggested that overlap correlation is not causation, the amount of demonization leads me to believe that it's more true than not. We'll see. Okay, then we got Dave. I think a huge first step in forgiveness. Dave, I think it is a huge first step of forgiveness in what will be a lifelong process simply because she is human. Pam Walker. Yeah. Forced name change says a lack of forgiveness, holding grudges damns more souls than any other sin. I can agree with that. And then we got Tiffany says, Viva, you're not understanding Erica's response. As a secular Buddhist, I heard the statement. She does not want the blood on her hands. She leaves it in the courts. She means she will not weigh in or ask. I understand. Okay, that's fair enough. Tiffany, thank you. And then we got W.M. Rogers. Forgive so as not to harbor hatred in your heart. Yes, but that personal decision does not change the circumstances for the forgiven. Society's survival requires that the darkness be removed from the, and I presume you mean society. Now, okay, I don't know where Barnes might be having some computer issues here, but let me see something over on CommiTube. And okay, let's see if I missed any super chats. No. By the way, everybody, make sure you hit the subscribe button and everything. I'm gonna get to the chat in a second. There's news out of Canada, and it's funny. Someone was saying on the Ostrich farm videos that I put on YouTube, like that there's overt suppression. I don't know how it works, and can't pretend to know anymore. But all that I know is that the Ostrich video that I put on Twitter, I put the same video on YouTube, where I have 659,000 subscribers, Twitter, where I've got 750,000, Rumble, where I've got 479. There's interest in the news story that is the ostrich farm in Canada, and yet somehow on YouTube, not so much interest. And I do wonder if it's because it's not accessible or not easily accessible to people in Canada. Universal Ostrich Farm, I get a call as I'm at the memorial today from Katie from Ostrich Farm, and she says they're almost literally coming. Let me just make sure here. Here, is this it? No, what did I just do? That was not the right one. She says she has it on again. It's like it's just the government is getting their stuff in order to come in and slaughter these ostriches. So she tells me that the company is called Nucor. She says I've been told by someone who was in tears that they've got their government contractor to dispose of the bodies of the ostriches, and it's called Nucor. Think safe, work safe, home safe. I don't know what the hell that means. And the regional director is Duane Foley. Duane F at nucornv.ca. So that's DUANEF at NUCORENV.ca. And I said, email him and call the company, let them know, just don't do it. You don't have to do this. It's like, no, I hear about it. And I sent an email, and typos and all. I said, I'm told you're the company that's going to dispose of the ostriches. Please don't do it. Don't follow these orders. Do what you know is right. Typo. Find your humanity and inner strength. You can be a hero. Godspeed. Then someone's like, oh, Viva, tell him to go fuck himself. I'm like, this is not the government. This is a contractor. And if you're trying to get them on your side, berating them is probably not the best thing to do. Robert, sir, how goes the battle?
It's been a battle. I hope the internet's okay and everything. I'm in Vegas temporarily. Came into California and was planning on coming down to Phoenix yesterday. Got some things got sideways here, so I wasn't able to. But it looked a beautiful. I thought it was a beautiful memorial. I thought the best of America is who Charlie Kirk represented, and his memorial was the best of the American tradition. I thought Robert Kennedy's speech was very beautiful. Same with Tucker Carlson, Erica Kirk, President Trump, Vice President Vance, and so many others. A true tribute to a man who achieved in 31 years what most of us can't achieve in a lifetime, in 100 years. So credit to the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. That was. I mean, and you could see they're the people there. They're cheery people. They're good people. They're positive people. They're religious people. They're nothing like the left attempts to demonize them as in order to dehumanize them and to engage in this kind of politicized murder in the first place.
I'm going to try to mute myself in between just to keep it quieter for the crowd. Yeah, it's I can see, like, if you're not to be judgmental, I can see people who are godless looking at the crowd and saying, this is all very weird. Oh, this is brainwashing. It was, I felt bad sharing the video because I didn't want people thinking like I'm exploiting of their moment of spirituality. It's, you see people like closing their eyes, raising their hands, and there is something going on internally. I sort of only wish I could have it because I might be, happier if I could, but it's quite clearly something pure, something beautiful, something value added, and something that makes them better. And to have these jackasses on the internet call them like a Nazi rally, it's just so stupid because it's the inverse of reality. But it was beautiful. It was, but the only thing was, it was long. I was thinking if I had taken Ethan, it would have been the amount of medical emergencies, Robert, people passing out, waiting in the parking lot, kids there. There were mothers there with newborns or young toddlers. It was a lot of dedication. But anyways, it was good. It was. You live vicariously through our presence. It was tedious to get there, like 4 or 5 hours just waiting, standing in the same spot and hoping to get in. But Robert, what do you think? I mean, I don't know if you have any insider information or insider ball, but on the announcement that Trump's dropped today, that tomorrow there's going to be an announcement from RFK as relates to potential something about vaccines or autism. Had you heard that?
Yes, yeah. Getting to the rest of our topics tonight, we have a range of topics derivative of Charlie Kirk. I encourage people to watch the memorial if they get the chance to. It's broadcast across multiple forums. Robert Kennedy's speech got to me in part because I know Robert Kennedy, am friends with Robert Kennedy, but also Robert Kennedy disclosed what that we knew but had not gone public with, except very indirectly, which was that Charlie was essential to the MAGA Maha coalition, and the empirical evidentiary foundation for it was, thanks to everybody out there, the 1776 Law Center sponsored survey that Richard Barris did as People's Pundit Daily, the big data poll, and it showed the potential power of a Trump-Kennedy coalition. It showed the power of a MAGA Maha coalition. We were the only people that were polling on this. People elsewhere were polling, trying to go the opposite direction, discourage the coalition from coming to fruition. Because of all the people that support 1776 Law Center, we were able to fund that poll. Richard Barris did it at cost, credit to him, of course. He then got it to Charlie. Charlie then got it together with everybody in the Trump world, in the Kennedy world, in the donor world, in the volunteer world, in the organizer world, and said, look, this coalition has got to happen. And now Kennedy came out and publicly said Kirk was critical. Charlie was critical to the entire thing ever happening. If Charlie doesn't do that, I had connections, Richard Barris had connections, but it may not have worked. Charlie was the key to all of it. He was the glue to all of it. You may not have had a President Trump but for Charlie Kirk. He would have been an extraordinary president himself, which a lot of us believe he would be 20 years from now. Great credit to his legacy. Now, at this memorial, I believe it is now the biggest privately attended memorial in American history. So it gives you a sense. I mean, and his effect is global. You saw the rallies for him from the UK. They were trying to pretend there were 3,000. Try 3 million. That was the actual number. When you see the drone footage and you see every street is just packed and packed and packed and packed. And similar in South Korea, similar in Japan, similar in parts of Europe, similar all around the world. People, if you're out there in your local community, my advice is form a turning point chapter at your local school, your high school, your local, not only college, but get it into the high schools, get a true turning point. So that that the legacy of his life is in the best of the American tradition and is the best of his tradition. As Robert Kennedy said, the whole never disappears, but you can make it smaller by making your life bigger, by taking the best attributes that person had and making them part of your own. And this is, if anybody understands politicized violence, it's Robert Kennedy. He saw his father murdered when he was 14, saw his uncle murdered when he was 8, had other family members die along the way, was subject to all kinds of death threats throughout his campaign. And he was the one who explained that his mother told him that after Robert Kennedy's brother passed away, so a few years ago. So that's the best way to remember it. Now, under the other law topics we're going to cover tonight, we have the Jimmy Kimmel getting canceled. We've got the theories out there about is the assassin or is he a patsy? The various theories that are floating out and about. We've got the designating Antifa, or I do like Michael Benz. He's calling him Transtifa.
Someone had used Trantifa. Someone had used that term in the mainstream. I'm like, okay, well now I guess we get to use that.
Trantifa. It's a perfectly apt depiction that Michael Benz has been using and referencing. Andy No has done great work on this. Can you designate them a terror organization? What does that mean? What does the president's designation mean? Are there differences between domestic and foreign? How might that be approached? The Soros NGOs that Stephen Miller is talking about going after, President Trump is talking about going after, connected to this. Could the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 and what happened with the Klan in the 1870s especially, but also again in the 1920s and 1950s, and how he handled prosecutions related to them. Could that be a path to break up the violent left? How do you say it again? Transtifa, or Transitive. It is the Trans Antifa network. There may be schools there. What are, conspiracies to violate civil rights? A range of people have potential defamation claims. There are circumstances in which a libel claim can survive death, as we mentioned before. The New York Times is busy libeling Charlie Kirk in his own obituary because they can't help themselves. The left is committed to the lie, the big lie that gets all these people up in a fury rage to where they block people online and celebrate politicized murder. So we got all of those different constituent components related to Charlie. Then we got about a half dozen other topics. One is Luigi. Speaking of the beginning of a lot of this in the States at this scale, a judge thought he's just sending a message, nothing terrorism there. We'll talk about that. Talk about the different crime issues connected to the Charlotte incident. Another illegal who this time got caught beheading somebody. Another illegal who was kicked out by Trump, let back in under Biden, who's busy raping 5-year-olds. And in Seattle, if you're in the tent city and you rape a 5-year-old there, you get right out on bail. But if you object to the political attempted radicalization of your own son, like Kurt Benshoff did, they send you to prison for 11 years and deny you all contact. Seattle, the entire city, should be put under federal civil rights investigation. We've also got the Federal Reserve governor who got to keep her little gig for a little bit longer. We'll discuss that D.C. Court of Appeals decision. That's another joke. The media is suing AI. It's a nightmare for the poor liberal Democratic judges. Big tech or big media? Oh, God, who do I side with? Who do I whore for today? They're going to have to figure that one out. Maureen Comey sues under a ridiculous lawsuit, in my opinion, but it's in New York, so who knows? And then Big Fanny lost for good, thank God, in Georgia.
I just tweeted out that we're going to add one to the menu as to whether or not Ilhan Omar's citizenship can be revoked and she be deported. But it'll fit into the terrorism.
I mean, she got in under fraudulent pretenses. Not only the potential allegation of marrying her brother, but her father was part of a Marxist terrorist Islamic regime in Somalia. The people that were being given access to amnesty in America were those who were the victims of that regime.
It is kind of like, as far as I understood it, like Nazis sneaking out with, say, the Jews in World War II, cloaking themselves as the victims and not the perps, or I forget, it was the Hutus or the Tutsis, which one was carrying it out on the other, or being the perpetrators of the Rwandan genocide, claiming status as the victims of it and sneaking out with the groups of their own victims. Now, but is it the fraud is on her part or on her father's part? And then if it's on the parents' part, do you punish the kid for it?
Well, I mean, generally, if the basis by which you were admitted in the country was a lie, it's a lie. Whether somebody else told it on your behalf or you told it, you're still here illegally at that point, is my view. And then there's the other issues of immigration fraud, but in terms of whether she was pretending, was married to her brother, and then there's the other issues of other activities she's engaged in since then, in terms of questionable fundraising, issues of using campaign finance to basically line the pockets of her boyfriend / husband now dynamic. So you've got all of those dynamics as well, as she, of course, continues to be one of the worst reprobates about this. We should not have let Marxist Muslims into the country, probably. Just saying.
It was Reverend Tim Christopher who, in response to my tweet, saying this woman is effectively promoting terrorism. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic.
It's inciting violence. That's what it is.
She gets out there and effectively demonizes the victim of the assassinated individual, suggesting that his memory should be erased after he's been physically erased. That is the dog whistle, not so subtle, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Do some more of this. After we kill you, we're going to erase your memory, sort of like what Al-Shabaab does in Somalia, where they destroy the monuments of the people that they've conquered or that they've killed. So it's importing terrorist policy, and she's a sitting member of Congress. So it's like I am fully aware that if the Kamala side ever comes back into power, and if I get citizenship, they'll try to find a way to say, whatever, to try to strip the citizenship of their adversaries. But what Omar is up to, Ilhan, it's so insidious, and it's so, at this point, overtly not provocative, but a dog whistle to violence. One of these politicians should censure her. I don't know how they can kick him
Well, I
out
mean,
of
they should have.
office.
I mean, I think it would have been grounds to expel her, given her behavior, because it was an incitement to terroristic violence. And you can't have a member of Congress doing that. That seems to me, if George Santos getting charged with some low-level fraud crimes deserved expulsion, how does calling for incitement to violence by a member of Congress that could lead to civil war by the daughter of a Marxist Muslim who who was integral to terroristic violence, and she knows how to do it. She comes. This is why we shouldn't have brought these people here to begin with. To be honest, when Minnesota was run by Norwegians, it was a lot better state than when the Somalis began to have major influence, and I think we're seeing that, and I think it is problematic. And the bottom line, reality with someone like her, she's probably committed a half dozen other crimes anyway. So some people get confused and they say, oh, because I'm against show me the man, find me the crime. Mm-hmm. I'm against that. My point about these people that we know are already engaged in criminal conduct, put them under investigation, you'll find at least some crime they've already committed, a bunch of crimes they've committed. Even if it's not the primary one that you might look at initially, you might not find the smoking gun proof of. It's like looking at Al Capone, right? Al Capone wasn't show me the man, find me the crime. It was show me the criminal and I'll find you the crime to charge him with. That's the difference. Not show me the man, find you the crime. It's show me the criminal and I'll find you the crime to convict them. Mm-hmm. And that's what she is. That's what a lot of them are, and that's what they've exposed. I think, I saw Sargon of Akkad and other people, Carl Benjamin, others saying. For those who don't know, Sargon of Akkad and Carl Benjamin, the same guy. Lotus of the POTUS Eaters. Is that it?
POTUS Eaters.
No, the Lotus Eaters. That's it. I always say POTUS Eaters, and it's the Lotus Eaters. I still have no idea where he comes up with these names and images. But he was like, you can never persuade the left, so on and so forth. I disagreed. Because that's not who you necessarily have to persuade. You have to persuade the normie. You have to persuade the normie that, I don't want to be affiliated with this. I don't want to be associated with this. I don't want to be attached to this. I don't want to be next to this person that, if you see somebody online celebrating this, that's a sign to you, don't have anything to do with that person. If they're a person of influence, shame them and shun them as far as you can. And Jimmy Kimmel, can you, my God, is U2 the most useless band in the world? Maybe Bono really went on those Jeffrey Epstein plane trips for other reasons. I don't know what it is, but that they've become such simps for the establishment. This rebel political band is now it was like Rage Against the Machine. They were like, we're sorry, we meant Rage for the Machine, for the machine. It's like, where do they even come up with this? But this is a Jimmy Kimmel who went out and praised ABC and called for ABC and supported ABC in firing Roseanne Barr over a tweet.
What?
He and everyone's like, his free speech, but Barack Obama, I'm so upset. We should send Barack Hussein Obama. We should deport him back to the Muslim Islamic country he's really from too. Well, we're at it with her. But what nonsense is this? Jimmy Kimmel went out and libeled the family of the Kirk family, libeled a bunch of other people, libeled the entire conservative movement, in truth, made fun of Charlie Kirk's murder, and is shocked he gets fired? What? What
Robert,
world is he living in? He should be lucky he's alive.
Listen to this one. Listen to this.
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson after all these years.
Listen to the audience.
Parting ways, which means he was fired. That's really what parting ways means.
I won't play the rest of it. It's a full 45-second.
There's all people that have cheered. No, you get to do that against us. What? Yeah.
And just to highlight it, by the way, because it's people are saying, first of all, it's FCC interference. I'm like, first of all, FCC. Things happened at the same time, but their decision to pull Jimmy was Sinclair and Nexstar pressuring ABC before the FCC, because FCC made a statement and they then terminated its contract a couple hours later. They didn't run and meet up in a room after the FCC guy made his comment on Benny Johnson. So they were already looking to get rid of him. A, he was already losing the money, and B, he had already shocked the world. He comes out and says talking about the perpetrators of genocide sneaking in with the victims. He comes out and says that it was MAGA who killed Charlie Kirk. And then, the insult about Trump, it looks like he's celebrating the way a 4-year-old celebrates the loss, mourns the death of a goldfish. It's inhuman and inhumane. But the FCC had no role that we know of other than contemporaneous statements. It's not like the FCC did it. So his employer fired him for something he did on the job that was absolutely crass, tasteless, and borderline malicious propaganda, versus Roseanne, who got fired for something she said on Twitter, not in the context of her employment. Gina Carano, same difference. And so they want to equate these two. And I say, even if you disagree with both, they're fundamentally different in that Jimmy Kimmel did it on the job and compromised the brand of his employer.
Oh, exactly. It's radically different. Not like that. I'm sorry, Jimmy. You made these rules. You get to live with them. You don't get to make rules and they go, oh, you don't get to apply them to me. Yes, we do. So, I mean, that's the way the game is played. They set the rules. I mean, as Razorfist had his rant, hey, you set the rules. You're winning through 6 innings. Now you're losing in the ninth. You don't get to say, oh, no, hold on. We don't want these to be the rules anymore. Too bad, too late. So that's the nature. I mean, he had it coming times 10. And everybody else that's in a position. I had a long discussion with George Gammon, who's comes from a libertarian civil liberties perspective. So he's very nervous about any kind of cancel culture. And so I went through. I was like, there's standards here that are very manageable standards that can maximize both the right to life as well as the right to speech, free speech. And that's if you're in a position of social influence and you are inciting other people to violence, that is cause for your employer to fire you and cause for people to call for your firing. And it is both a legal, moral, and policy good that happen when you're in a position of influence. So that's it. But the number of school teachers, and then look, we got multiple copycat. I mean, like the only reason why most people don't know that there was copycat incidents over the past week, like the Nashua, New Hampshire shooting, like them catching someone trying to murder Justice Kavanaugh, and some of the evidence that's come out about that. Of course, shock, trans, left.
This was the one a while back. The guy had rope and a gun, and it just now came out. I don't know how they only released it now that he was also transgender or confused, mentally ill, suicidal.
Well, they're starting to figure it out. I mean, to me, Charlie. Also, great credit to Chase Hughes. Put out a very detailed video about how this entire thing. Now he's trying to stay nonpartisan to get maximum audience participate, and that's his own view. The reality is it's the left that's on the psyop for the most part. There isn't many on the right, but he doesn't need to say that because his goal is to get a message to people on the left. He's like, if you find yourself hating your neighbor, if you find yourself hating your friends, if you find yourself hating your family, if you find yourself blocking them, if you find yourself dehumanizing the people that you've known your whole life around you, and just to such a degree you could justify or rationalize their murder, you are the victim of a psyop. Mm-hmm. That was his point. And of course, for a lot of those folks, they like to fancy themselves the most informed, the most educated, like my niece likes to go on these long lectures about, her idiocy could fill up every library in the entire human universe and then some. But these people think they're really smart, really bright, really intelligent. So Chase, as a master expert in psyops, point is, and who is a more susceptible MK Ultra project than trans? Because if you understand trans, you understand that whatever happens in one part of the brain that says, maybe I don't know what my gender is, the moment that pops up in somebody's brain, somehow what also pops up in their brain is violence is now okay against anybody. Again, a rate of violence in some surveys as high as 80% against their most intimate others.
Well, I'm not trying to be glib about this.
No, Riley, if you don't know what gender you are, you have a dangerous mental illness. It's that simple. And we've known this for almost all of human history.
Well, but
until the last 10 years.
I'll take it from the other way around now. I think that there's a lot of people who have dangerous mental illnesses who now see claiming to be trans as their way to social affirmation, and so they come in now and say, "Oh shit! Now I can hide among these people," much like the perpetrators of genocide hiding with the victims. Like, I have a dangerous mental illness. I'm a Ted Bundy type person, except now wearing women's clothes and putting on lipstick is valorized. So I'm going to go get the social credit that comes with being trans and commit evil acts there. But
they'd be the perfect target. Young trans men would be the perfect target for politicized violence by an MK Ultra type group.
I just gave everybody the link to Chase Hughes' video, and it's like I like Chase, and there's no but to that. When I'm watching it, and I appreciate what he's saying, that this is the globalist, say the elite want everybody fighting among themselves, so they play one party against. Okay, that's fine. I can appreciate there's two levels to this. On the immediate threat level, it is coming from the left, and whether or not they're being played harder than the right, it's coming from them. Whether or not I'm being played also, Viva's out there tweeting about it, he's playing into the game, fine. But the immediate proximate threat is one that I don't care who's pulling the strings. we need to deal with that proximate threat right now, and then we can worry about going after Soros.
Correct. And George Gammon pushed back. There were some people that are agitated about George pushing back. George comes from a very conscientious libertarian perspective. He never wants to get, and he's always worried about any form of mob mentality. That's your classic, your pure libertarian generally finds mob mindset dangerous. They see a lot of horrible things that happen whenever the mob gets emotionally fueled. So that's what his concern was. His concern was, how do we deal with this clearly severe problem of politicized violence while at the same time protecting civil liberties and don't become part of the social mob ourselves. And this isn't, and I see this as very different. This is about the people exercising aggregate power against people in institutions of influence. I'm not calling for the janitor to get fired. I'm talking about the school teacher, the nurse, the doctor, the clerk, the court administrator, the office administrator. I mean, we have now had judges, law clerks, elected officials, all the way across the board greenlight this. I challenge anybody. Go back any time in American history outside of the Civil War and find a time where we celebrated, where any portion of the American public celebrated the assassination of a person that wasn't even a political official en masse at this level. You wouldn't even find many people who did that in the hardcore deep pockets of the Klan South when King was assassinated. I mean, even they knew to keep their mouths shut. And so, I mean, it gives you an idea that political permission slip got out of hand. It got out of hand fast. Now, what I like is we're seeing a cultural pushback en masse. And it's don't respond with violence. So far, the right has not responded with any violence at all. Instead, the left has done copycat violence.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. I mean, they talked about it during today's memorial service, like no riots, no reprisal violence, no calls for it. Maybe people saying, yeah, Jimmy Kimmel should get fired, and that's not even cancel culture, like an irreverent tweet from a decade ago or something on another platform. He did something on the job that cost his employers money. They were right to fire him, period. To be distinguished from Roseanne Barr.
Credit to Stephen Crowder, who was, deservedly agitated. He was on with Piers Morgan, and Morgan tried to trap him. Morgan said, you look like at first you were calling for violence, but it looks like you clarified it. And Crowder's like, I didn't clarify anything. I just repeated it. And maybe that was provided clarity for you. Right. So the credit to Crowder is like, no, I was pretty darn clear. You didn't want to hear. Some of you on the media wanted this to escalate into Civil War type conflict. So good on that. And then, be more like Charlie. As Robert Kennedy told the story, he had a granddaughter that is going off to college in Europe and decided to take a Bible with her. And her mom asked why. And she said, I want to live my life more like Charlie's.
It is.
So, he's going to go down as a Martin Luther King level impact on as a non-elected official and having one of the most positive impacts on American society in our history, period.
Someone messaged me and said, Viva, you say they shouldn't call them Nazis, fascists, threats to democracy. Here's a tweet where you talking about Canadian politics and referred to them as Nazi lovers. I'm like, yeah. That was after
they Nazi lovers.
That was after they
celebrated a Nazi. They brought an actual Nazi and gave him awards and celebrations.
Bad example. Robert, now speaking of the so we'll go for Jimmy Kimmel, right to get fired, probably doesn't have a claim and probably will not sue.
He has no claim. Zero claim, zilch claim, Zunca claim. He will go down in infamy as a guy who was once upon a time a funny comedian who became a political hack who decided to make fun of a murder of a civilian became a moral horror on the world. A boil on Americans' entertainment.
Now, and then we talked about potentially deporting Ilhan Omar for overtly, as far as I'm concerned, overtly, tacitly supporting terrorism.
And we have to pursue some of these things. And I know, and I went into a long, I did it with George because I knew George came from a very, let's be very careful, let's be very cautious, free speech absolutist, et cetera. Because I wanted the challenge in that regard. And I encourage people to watch that if they wanted further development of what I was talking about. But this is a unique situation, and we have to make some big examples. Like, am I a big fan of Trump using our military to bomb boats out of the sea because Intel says that they're shipping dangerous drugs to us? No, I'm not. I'm a little skeptical of it. But I understand what Trump thinks. Trump thinks, hey, if I could just do a couple of these, I bet I can shut down 80% of drug traffic through the seas, and maybe I save a couple of lives, or even more than a couple of lives. So we need examples. We need exemplars. And wouldn't Ilhan Omar be a very deserved exemplar? Let her fight it out through the court system and legal system and all the rest. But put her on blast as to everything, because she's not only personifies the threat, someone giving political permission slip in a position of power to dangerous people to commit politicized violence that could only civil war on America. But she is someone who's also illegal, basically an illegal immigrant. That's how she got here illegally, and how she obtained her citizenship, both in claiming, the marriage with her brother, whatever all that is about, plus her father lying about it. Plus, she represents the history of this Somali, Muslim, Marxist marriage in violence, domestic violence, civil war, horrific things that they did, that her father was a part of. Some of them was just unbelievable. So she personifies it. She signifies it. She represents it. Her life history is this story. Her ancestry is this story. So put it all on blast. And if she can win in court, God bless her. But I would move to look at deporting her and initiate those proceedings, because the news media can't help itself. They'll cover it interminably. And then Ilhan Omar, the daughter of Marxist Muslims, who is herself likely a Marxist Muslim when she's not busy being a Democratic grifter or inciting violence against other Americans, is the symbol is the face and image of the Democratic Party. Politically, that is not a winner for the Democrats, or for the side that wants to greenlight and justify the violence against Charlie Kirk and the rest of us. And so I'm all for that. Now, the other issues we have with Charlie, we have the terror organization question.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get to.
Soros NGO Klan Act conspiracy prosecutions, and whether or not the various conspiracy theories out there that the assassin might be someone else.
Just one thought before I forget it. It's like, won't someone rid me of this meddlesome priest? Ilhan Omar's statement is basically, don't do these things. But now that you did it, let's erase the memory of the individual. That is a tacit ratifying of the act. Now, designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist group. So I forget who I read initially last week that said there's no such thing as a designation of domestic terror group. You have your international terrorist designation, and that is because I guess the CIA can do things internationally once you give them jurisdiction to operate internationally. There is, however, different penalties under the law, or when you investigate, if you're investigating or charging for domestic terrorism, there's a specific legal procedure. But officially, what people are saying is, it's a toothless promise or a gesture without consequence, because there's no formal designation as a domestic terror organization under American law. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
Well, I see it as a two-step process. So ultimately, from a federal perspective, what we want is Antifa designated a foreign terrorist organization. It is correct that the main law the laws that provide remedy when someone's been designated a foreign terrorist organization does require it being designated a foreign terrorist organization, as opposed to a purely domestic terrorist organization. However, Antifa is absolutely a foreign terrorist organization. Antifa did not, it was amazing. CBS is lying. I don't know what Turning Point and Eric and the family and other people want to do, but I'll be happy to help them in any capacity I can. I like Charlie. He was friends with Charlie. One of the most decent. Tucker described it perfectly today. When Tucker was like, I got a little part of my heart that's got some hate in it. Mine may be a little bigger now and then. But if you were around Charlie, he would never respond with hate. It was like, that's someone we need to reach. That's someone we need to persuade. That's someone that just needs Jesus. He was the happiest version of evangelical Christianity I've ever met in my life. Was Charlie. But for me, the number of libels about Charlie are just absurd. And if you are diminishing the value of an ongoing organization by defaming its principle, then you can sue in the name of the organization. So I believe Turning Point has claims against every major media organization, has claims against Jimmy Kimmel, has claims against a whole bunch of powerful people, has claims against Ilhan Omar. They set up, they pretended Alex Jones is who they were. But they established in that case the legal precedents to go after all of them. Consider that CBS was just lying today, I believe, about Antifa. They said Antifa was an organization that started in just a few years ago that mostly opposes neo-Nazis and racists. Complete lie. Complete, absolute lie. Antifa started in Italy, where it expanded to Germany, where communists came up with a new name rather than call themselves communists. They said, now there's fascists. we can use the fascists to justify our own violence. Because it's important. Fascism and communism were two socialists who hated each other. That's all they were. They were really all on the left. There was no fascist on the right. They're on the left. That's why they called themselves socialist. That's why the S in the the Nazi Party stands for socialist. Because they were socialist.
I love how Wikipedia or AI has to protect it. The contemporary Antifa movement in the U.S. is not directly connected to its European predecessors, but draws inspiration. Does it also draw funding from international organizations? Is what I'd like.
Well, and here's a guy that Professor Bray or whatever his name at Dartmouth. He should be under investigation. He is one of the biggest propagandists and violent inciters in the country, and he wrote a fake history of Antifa to rationalize and justify this. And then he became the favorite expert all the media and academics would go to. It would be like going to the chief of the Klan and say, "Tell us, chief of the Klan, what started the Klan?" "Oh, okay. That's how ridiculous it is." But they're lying. Antifa started in late 1920s in northern Italy. That's why their favorite, one of the biggest, one of the things that the alleged assassin,
Ciao Bella Bella, Ciao Bella Bella, Ciao,
is the original Antifa song from Italy.
And by the way, let me bring this up because for everybody who was saying disingenuously or ignorantly that it was a gaming thing, they were singing it at a protest against transgenderism in Montreal. I'll get that video in a second. They were singing that Ciao Bella song at a protest in Montreal as relates to people opposing transgender ideology. So it was in the game as well. If you want to be a liar about it, you'll say it was game motivated and not Antifa motivated.
Well, and the mere fact the name is Antifa. Antifa has no English origin. Antifa comes from an Italian word translated into a German word as anti-fascist. This is by definition, Antifa is a foreign terrorist organization by its origins, by its history, by its iconography, by its ideology, by its funding, by its organization. So Antifa was strong throughout the 20s and 30s in Italy, and then it expanded, and its dominant presence was Germany. It then receded during World War II, and then you had different parts break up into the Soviet Union into the West, the Warsaw Pact, and NATO. So that diminished it for a while, and then it came roaring back in Germany. And for a while, it went through different formulations. You had, the Red Guard, and you had a range of left-wing terror organizations from the mid-1960s all the way through really the early 1980s. You had Operation Gladio, which developed its own terror operation out of misplaced resources, particularly Ukraine. By the way, you have a lot of trans violence that a lot of high-ranking Ukrainian people who've been accused of particular violence against civilians. You'll find a weird trans connection, including the obvious CIA person, intelligence asset front, who was from Las Vegas, who was the trans person who represents Ukraine from the U.S. with intel connections, tried to infiltrate the Republican Party, then goes over and represents Ukraine, who helped coordinate the torture and murder of American journalist Gonzalo Lira. That's who these people are. So, but that's what makes it foreign, right? If you read the law just says it's a foreign organization. And in fact, here's how it's the Code of Federal Regulations expanded it a bit. So 2 CFR 1108.205. A foreign organization, it can be an organization located in a country other than the United States, even if it is not recognized as a foreign public entity. In other words, all you need it to be is foreign at some level. It does not have to be exclusively foreign. Hamas is not exclusively foreign. The PLO was not exclusively foreign. All those other organizations, including al-Nusra, who now we've decided, we're going to play ball with in Syria, so we just took them off the list, and now they're visiting outside the World Trade Center, where the World Trade Center used to be. I was like, whatever that is. What we're doing, put out another story for another day. But all that requires is a foreign location, not exclusively foreign location. So now there's certain procedures which we'll get to, but Antifa is by all evidence. Andy Ngo has probably acclimated the most, but Mike Benz has also acclimated a bunch. Data Republican Online, who does all that great work, she's identified a bunch. And that prove that Antifa is at minimum, what I think is indisputable, is it does it have any presence in a foreign nation? Well, since it originated one, it became in the 70s and 80s what was called the Black Bloc. And so they use these same techniques. You dress in such a way that people can't identify you. You avoid police. They have sophisticated levels of training, sophisticated levels of terrorists. They basically teach, train, and tutor people in terrorism. That's what Antifa has always been. Its excuse, its pretext, the fig leaf of its coverage were self-defense against the fascists. By the way, how do you think the Ku Klux Klan, what do you think their organizing principle of justification was? Self-defense. We have to defend ourselves from these freed slaves. Yeah, right. So all these terror organizations are the same. So we can designate them a foreign terror organization. Now, what is the process for that? What are the consequences that flow from it? So the process is this. The Secretary of State looks at open source and classified information, builds an administrative record, then designates Antifa as a foreign terrorist organization and all of its affiliates and associates. And they've done this many, many times with a wide range of foreign terror organizations to encapsulate the fact most terror organizations are not, or like I saw legal analysis saying, Antifa's not hierarchical. It doesn't have a registered limited liability company in Delaware. That's not an organization. What about most terror organizations don't register their LLC in Delaware? There isn't a Hamas LLC in Delaware. They don't have like a hierarchy. Say, okay, here's chairman, this deputy. Most of them don't, right? For obvious reasons, to be honest with you. So all of that argument's utter nonsense. Is there an organization? The definition of an organization is people that get together for a common purpose and use common sources of funding or organization or other mechanisms to do so. That fits Antifa to a T, by its own description, by its own definition, by more than a century of its own history. So it is an organization. It has a presence in foreign locations. That makes it a foreign organization. Now, is it dedicated to terrorism? Because that's the other statutory criteria that the Secretary of State must make before designating it a foreign terror organization. Well, terrorism, guess what's always included in terrorism under federal law? Assassination. If there's assassination, terrorism, period, end of story. They have called for, justified, rationalized every form of terrorism in there. Taking hostages, raiding property, to trying to coerce and intimidate and terrorize a domestic or other population for politicized purposes, threatening to kill people, wanting to kill people, attacking people, a violent assault, mob lynch, actually trying to create lynch mobs in wide range. Go back to when they attacked Milo, go back to all these other previous attacks. So they are a terror organization. They have a foreign presence, and consequently, the Secretary of State can use open source information and classified information quite easily to establish this. And the last component is that they present a threat to U.S. nationals. Well, they just murdered Charlie Kirk, so I think we can check that box. And this goes all the way back. This goes 1999, Seattle, World Trade Organization, mass protest. It was infiltrated by Antifa. We're in the Black Bloc, who destroyed a bunch of things, converted it into a riot, discredited the protesters, allowed the World Trade Organization to do what? Help bring China into the World Trade Organization formally 2 years later. So there's a long history of them being useful idiots, but there's a long history of them being politically violent, using terroristic tactics against the United States in an organized way with a foreign presence and foreign source. So I think that's enough for them to designate Antifa a foreign terror organization. What does that mean? Now, once he does it, he sends it to Congress. Congress has 7 days to overturn it. Is Congress going to overturn that designation? I don't think so. So then they have 30 days. Antifa, some member of Antifa, who's on this list, has 30 days to appeal to the courts. Of course, it's always the District of Corruption where they get to go. But it's to the Court of Appeals, and they get to challenge it on grounds, well, whether it's arbitrary or constitutional violation, etc. I'm all for this, even if they challenge it, because it puts the highlight on the problem. The highlight is Antifa. And then the secondary problem is judicial corruption turning a blind eye to it. A former legislative director for the teachers union in California went and shot up a local ABC studio after they fired Jimmy Kimmel or suspended him. And what did the Newsom's government in California do? It released him immediately. And the feds, to their credit, are starting to get on top of it, went and rearrested him. Because every single one of these crimes is not just a state crime, it is a violation of federal civil rights. and as such is a federal crime and has been recognized as such since the last time we had to deal with this, which was the Ku Klux Klan, for which we created the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. Now, what are the consequences? The consequences are if you provide any level of material support for a terror organization, you can go to federal prison for 20 years. This cuts off the funding immediately, cuts off association or associating with them, organizing with them, promoting with them, any of it. You are done for. You are DOA legally. And so it is an incredibly powerful tool. Secondly, you can freeze their funds anywhere you have control. So you can freeze anybody's funds that are connected to this, you can freeze overnight. So designating someone, a foreign terrorist organization has extraordinary legal power in the United States.
This is the same thing in Canada when they designated Proud Boys a terror organization. I said, well, that's just going to facilitate them freezing their bank accounts, except in Canada, they freeze the bank accounts of people who donate to charities. You don't even have to be a designated terrorist organization. So yeah, there are remedies under the law, the same ones we have in Canada, it sounds like.
Exactly. Now, so I'm for continuing to go on the foreign terrorist organization track. I would notice a separate thing. The fact that Trump has designated them a terror organization at some level frees up a range of resources with federal state combined investigations, because over 20 states have their own terror organization laws, their own terrorism crime laws, their own terror criminal enhancement laws, in some cases, similar material prosecution laws. So you can work with them even if they weren't a foreign terrorist organization. The feds can work with the state in those 20 plus states and go after them under the state law predicate as well. And in addition, the state law predicate can in turn enforce a federal civil rights violation that can be brought, which is what I recommend as a parallel track to also unravel, to stop the political permission slip, to cut off the organizing and funding of this and the facilitation of this politicized violence, this insurrectionary activity. I recommend also using not just the foreign terrorist organization laws, not just using the shaming and shunning of people in positions of influence from being able to keep those positions of social influence, but last but definitely not least, maybe the strongest remedy, the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871. And that act was intended to deal with this exact situation. Private people involved in private organizations. By the way, usually the Ku Klux Klan didn't incorporate wherever they went, right? That wasn't a common thing either. A private organization disguised as a self-defense entity, which is in fact out to commit politicized violence for politicized terroristic purposes. We have dealt with this in this country before, and it was the Ku Klux Klan. In fact, we had to deal with the Klan, and then we had to deal with anarchist violence between 1880 and 1920. We also had to deal with the Klan violence in the 1860s, again in the 1890s, again in the 1920s, again in the 1950s. So the Ku Klux Klan Act was a whole bunch of legislative proposals meant to solve this problem. And it gave people the tools, gave the federal government the tool and ordinary people the tool to bring suit in court for damages, to bring suit in court for injunctions against rogue officials. But it also empowered criminal investigations and criminal indictments on those that were complicit or conspiring with them. So to give you, here's like the core of the Ku Klux Klan Act. Being any person who, under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state, shall subject or cause to be have that person be subjected to the loss of any deprivation of any of their rights, privileges, or immunities secured under the Constitution. They have a right to sue. If somebody's organizing to do that, even if it's private actors doing it with others, then you have a right to bring criminal indictments. And by the way, here is the great utility. Not only that, guess what else you have? It specifically authorizes the President of the United States to use the military and the militia. That if there are states who are refusing to enforce these laws, like California is, systemic civil rights violations is a separate and independent grounds to declare domestic violence and insurrection grounds as for him to use it specifically under the Ku Klux Klan Act, separate from all of the other powers that he has. But in addition, you have all of these federal criminal prosecutions you can bring. So to me, what you have is a systematic effort by the Soros-connected NGOs, by the Antifa-related groups, preying on the trans community in particular, incorporating them into this campaign of terroristic violence, that we can take it apart piece by piece at every single level of operation. And we're, some of us have been calling for this for about 8 years, but at least it's starting to get the attention of the right people. And consequently, I think that will be a very productive path should the Justice Department pursue it. Don't be like Pam Bondi and start confusing hate speech with all of this. There's no such thing as hate speech. There is illegal incitement of violence. There's incitement of violence, things like that. Some of that speech is unprotected. Some of it is protected in a constitutional context from the government, but not in a private context from an employer. So it depends on the circumstances, but that was a mistaken view. Instead, focus, this is a foreign terrorist organization, go after it as such. This is also a Klan-like organization, go after it as such. Expand all the remedies, and I hope Turning Point pursues every legal remedy they have available. Go after all of these big libels, these big libelers and defamers in every aspect, because they've been giving a green light, a political permission slip for this violence to occur. And the other utility is use their own roadmap. They laid out the roadmap. They first laid it out in the way they went after Alex Jones. Okay, now it's your turn, MFers. Not only that, and unlike Alex Jones, they're actually guilty of it. Just like they did the confession through projection by taking Hunter Biden's biography and pretending it was Donald Trump's crimes, which is what Russiagate really was. It was just a big, long Hunter Biden confession, including probably the people doing things to him in the bed, that kind of thing. But it's not just limited to that. You can aggregate this together to take this apart wholesale in such a way that you could meaningfully deter this from happening in the future.
Robert, everyone should clip that portion and get those ideas out in the zeitgeist. Robert, before we go any further, let me just bring up a couple of CommuTube chats here. The Myth Maiden says, "Viva the left is the dangerous side. That's why all the classic liberals are actually on the right now with libertarians and conservatives. The left is where the true infection is." And there was another one which was over here, which says, Robinson should have to listen to Charlie every single day so that he realized what he did. I was thinking,
what Charlie would do. Charlie would be there to preach to him and hope to reach him. I mean, from his, from his perch in heaven, that's what his approach to someone like that would not be vengeance. It would be, is there a way to redeem you? Is there a way to save you? Is there a way to get? I mean, that's why I say he was the most evangelical of evangelicals. Yeah. If you're a born again Baptist, as I am, the old saying is you believe in deathbed conversions. So you can be the worst person in the world, and if on your deathbed you confess, you too can get redeemed. That's Charlie was big on that. So now that leads us to the last question: is he the actual assassin? Because we've seen some ongoing debate online about, was he the assassin? Was he a patsy? Was he in with a bunch of other people? Was the text a cover story? Was the text something fake? Was the text just real? Well, what's going on? What about the wound? Is that an entrance wound? Is it an exit wound? What about the sound? What about the energy? So I can give just some thoughts from a lawyer. I'm not a ballistics expert at all. But in law, you have to deal with ballistics, so you become like a quasi-expert. You know enough to know what's probably not going to work and what might have evidentiary legs to it, if you will. But before we get to the rest of the topics tonight. But so I don't know if you had any thoughts on that in general.
No, well, I mean, first of all, people are saying there's no exit wound, so there's a controversy there. If there's no exit wound, then it sort of that on its own contradicts the idea that there was another shooter from the upper part of the building, because the exit wound would have been the entrance wound from where they're conspiring that the bullet came from. Anybody who says this was an expert sniper shot, I immediately stop listening to what they have to say, because from all accounts, it wasn't. Andrew Colvette came out and said there was no exit wound because Charlie's bone, I don't know if it hit the shoulder blade or some bone that stopped the bullet. And he said Charlie's body was literally that, it was a miracle that it didn't go through, because then it could have killed someone behind him. I do not believe that Charlie was wearing a bulletproof vest or anything, but that's neither here nor there. I'll entertain whatever theories people posit. For the time being, people just have to contradict the most in-your-face evidence, which is all that we have, which was a single shot. People heard it. They located where it came from based on the sound. They found the rifle there, and that's what you have right now. Hypothesizing other players involved with evidence we don't have, and putting forward these theories, which, look, maybe it's because Charlie was a little closer, and it's something more personal than just merely theorizing about a political tragedy. I would wait a little bit before throwing these theories out, but some people are not doing that. But no, for the time being, it looks like one shot. Lord knows what happens when lead hits body mass, and and that's it. I don't see any conspiracy yet. Motivation, who paid them, who was involved in the plot. We'll get there when Cash Patel gets around to it.
I see it as two levels. One is, was there a broader conspiracy that the assassin was part of, versus was the assassin just a patsy or not even part of it at all? And so versus the official narrative, which is he did it by himself, as far as we've got it so far. So the evidence in support of the solo assassin approach is that the sound acoustics heard by the people there and recorded suggest only one shot. Second, that the shot came from the direction that the assassin, the alleged accused assassin, was then allegedly seen on that same region, same part of that same top of that building. They even found on the gravel at the top of the building where he appeared to lay down, found forensic proof tying him to him there, found the gun nearby that he had put in a bush. That's the official narrative. Is it's all consistent with that. The two biggest evidentiary weak links, one is the unusual nature of those texts that triggered, and I think that's a legitimate concern, but I think people have taken it in a different path than, I don't think it's, put it this way, if this was some to make him a patsy, that would have been written a lot better. It wouldn't have just been written like AI. The fact that it read like it was written by AI trying to fake a script tells me it was a script between the two of them.
Well, that's it. The Matt Walsh theory that this is like a Breaking Bad Walter White trying to get his wife absolved. So, look under my. Except even then, Robert, for him to say to his tran roommate, "Remember the etchings that I was doing," like that. That suggests advanced knowledge of something. You don't etch anti-fascist.
I'm not buying that he just went off and did this all on his own, came up with it a week before, and just decided to act on it. That doesn't strike. And his partner seemed more radical than him.
Yep.
So all of it would suggest that those texts were written. I saw a behavior language analysis. Scott Rouse did an analysis of his appearance in court. Someone else did that's been on Eric Hunley, America's Untold Stories channel. Also talked to someone on the body language that also does body language analysis. Their conclusion was that that he was, that he'd given up. That was like, they said a lot of people were interpreting it as him being sort of dehumanized. They said another interpretation is this is a guy that realized he got caught and it's all over and done with. But you can take whatever you want from those body language analysis. But I watched some of and reviewed some of the ballistic testimony. There was a guy, I think it's called something Overton, like shifting the Overton window. And he was on with Owen Schroyer. And he gave his reasons for doubting the initial official narrative. And that was, he thought that the way in which, and it's all based on what everybody agrees is what's weird here from a ballistic perspective. The biggest issue is the lack of an apparent exit wound. So that now what we've heard from the Turning Point people is that the doctor said that normally that is very unusual that a bullet of that caliber would go hitting your neck would not exit badly, and that usually then it could hit someone else and cause someone else to get hurt, and even die. And he said that they found the bullet and they don't know why it didn't go through his body, but it did. So that's the official narrative we have, and that still was an entrance wound, even though it's also kind of an unusual. Usually your entrance wounds are small, your exit wounds are big. Yeah. Now it is the neck, which is a different dynamic, and it appears to hit maybe. And then there was. A lot of people thought, or some people I read thought there was body armor because that could be an explanation. That was a hit like this and go up here. But there's been more and more dispute of that, and we've got no confirmation from anybody at Turning Point that he was wearing any body armor.
There's two things to that. Is that it didn't look like he was wearing body armor. You could see his nipples, you could see back muscles. Then they say, well, he could have had these like plates that are only in the middle. Everybody that I know who I remotely trust say if it was sort of the lesser, the more stealth type protection, it would be for small arms. It wouldn't stop a rifle projectile in the first place. So the ricochet wouldn't make sense. It would have gone through the soft armor, and that it clearly was not big enough to be a plate because you could see contours of his body. So, and plus it looked like it went in through the neck. When everybody says ballistics, It depends on how old the round is. I mean, I don't know if the round broke into pieces or was deformed, but if it's an older defective round, maybe it doesn't go through with the same force, and so it expands on impact, which would explain the traumatic injury itself. But sorry, so yeah, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, I think, and so I think they're legit. I don't begrudge the I don't begrudge anybody wanting to know the truth because they want to know how to prevent this in the future. And if this was something institutional or something government connected or something, they want to know because then they know what they're facing, what they're dealing with. And everybody has a right to be skeptical of the government when it comes to these kind of high-profile crimes because of how badly they've handled them over the past century plus, well, really 2 centuries, a century and a half, going back to Abraham Lincoln's assassination, and how aspects of that were not fully developed from an evidentiary perspective. So I get but everything I have seen so far still points to a sole assassin, but who was likely involved much deeper and much broader, with him being the trigger man with discussions and conspiracy in advance, both with his partner and other people. That's what the oddity of the text is masking, is that this was a broader conspiracy of a group of political radicals who believe violence is an appropriate mechanism of expression because their school teachers are telling them it is. And now that they got caught, are trying to do CYA and make him the sole patsy, the sole fall guy for the crime. I do think that's most likely what took place. So there are more people involved, but I don't think there was any other shot from any other angle. There's just not enough forensic evidence to back that up at this point, or that there was any other assassin involved. So but again, we're early into this case. Yeah. I hope we do get I hope they fully disclose any autopsy details, other things to get people, because they need to give people the confidence that this is on the up and up. And transparency is a good first step to that. And God bless Cash Patel, but it has not been his strength so far in the FBI.
Well, and what did he say? It sounded like Cash was entertaining other conspiracy theories, which had already been dispelled, like the funny hand movements from the people behind Charlie Kirk were coming from his closest friends. Maybe I'm misunderstanding some of the hand gesture conspiracy and explanation, but to me it sounded like those were already dispelled, but now you have Cash Patel entertaining those theories in his most recent tweet.
Yeah, it would have been easier for him to say that I'm familiar with all the different issues that people have raised. We will vet all of them. Just say that. You don't have to say what they are, because then it just confuses people more. And that's, God bless him, but he's stayed in the podcasting world. He's just not made to be head of an organization. That's my view. I mean, I say this not because nothing negative against him personally. It's just at this point we've seen this for 8 months, and he's a walking, talking disaster. As we saw, President Trump finally started to get agitated with Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Well, so that's
what he backed off. But I was like, yeah, she could use a little motivation. I'm all for that.
Do you think that truth post was an accidental DM or text message that he accidentally posted, or do you think he meant a truth?
No, I think he meant it, and because he was really agitated, and he was trying to tell his audience.
I hear you.
I hear you. I'm paying attention. I also think Kirk shot the Kirk. Charlie was close with Trump. I think that shocked him at a different level. And he realized we've got something else we have to deal with here. That is even more dangerous than. I'm sure it'll seem strange to people. This is a man that almost got murdered twice. That they tried to bankrupt. They tried to imprison for life. They tried to effectively execute him by sticking him in prison for life. So you would think, but I think in his mind, it was somewhat contained to him and preventing his reelection. I don't think he fully appreciated. No. This is a global conspiracy against constitutional liberty and American liberty as we know it. And it's not going anywhere until we take it apart and dismantle it. The good news is 2 things. You couldn't have had a better example of a human being to model after than Charlie Kirk in handling something tragic and traumatic like his own murder. Be more like Jesus, be more like Charlie, be a better Christian, be a better person, be a better American. That was always his message. It was never retaliation. It was never tit for tat. So that has inspired a lot of people. Go back to church, open up the Bible. Love your neighbor, not hate your neighbor. So listen to Chase Hughes. If you find yourself hating your neighbor, you're part of a psyop. Disown it, disorder right away. So on that side, but on the other side, that there needs to be real major legal remedy, and that's going to require. And I think he recognized the combination of the frustration. He's like, part of why we're here is because we didn't do anything the first 8 months to take apart this network of terrorism.
No, it's interesting. Like I could imagine and understand that Trump says, "I understand me as a target," but nobody understood Charlie Kirk as a target. Like I can
correct.
And
especially I think Trump, he really thought that was impossible. Now there were others, J.D. Vance, Bobby Kennedy, others knew the risk.
Yeah.
So I think Trump's taking it, and then he realized, okay, why haven't we got anything done in the first 8 months, Pam? I think that you just got an honest agitation from him. And then he walked it back a little bit. Hey, you're doing a great job. I'm glad we got this fixed over the
bull crap. That's toothpaste you can't put back in the container.
That absolutely was. You got it, and it's the pressure is on, and it should be. But I am hopeful that we start seeing. I mean, I know Ed Martin was meeting with Alex Jones a week or two ago. The Alex is a conduit to make sure certain information is there that they know at the Justice Department what they're dealing with. Alex has studied this problem for a very, very, very long time. He's been the number one target of it for a very, very long time. And I mean, the Lawfare, the reason why you've almost never seen Alex in public is because of how many serious murder threats have been made against his life. So, but he has investigated this, researched this, understands the context and the history. Alex is probably one of the only people I could sit there and talk about, well, Alex is kind of like 1932 Berlin. And he's like, yeah, well, really, it's more like 1934. That's how detailed Alex is in the history of it. But he understands that history proves that we can succeed. The assassin of Martin Luther King inspired more protection for civil rights, not less, because of the good life led by Dr. King. And Charlie's of the same spirit. In the same way, we can legally take this apart because we took apart the Klan. We crushed them in a decade. We can do the exact same thing to the left's version of the Klan, which is maybe what we should start calling Antifa, the left's Klan, because that's who they are. That's what they are.
It's redundant because the Klan was also the left's Klan, so it has to be.
That's true.
It has to be Antifa. Robert, so build and fix with Mooney says, Viva, do you still think Pam is on her way out? Yes, I think she's on her way out.
She's got to get. She has until the end of this year to get. She's got till Christmas to get meaningful indictments.
That's 2 months. And I don't think she's going to be able to do it.
No, I would hope so. But there are people that ask about Amos Miller and the farm freedom, food freedom. All I can say is, come late October, there might be a big announcement up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, with some interesting people in attendance. So there might be some positive news on that coming soon. Charlie was a good advocate for food freedom as well. Charlie took the 1776 Law Center poll, and he used it to go right to Trump's people and say, you've got to align with Kennedy now. Here's the data. Richard Barris, the best pollster in the world. Charlie was a huge Richard Barris fan. Huge. And he pushed it to everybody. He's like, you got to get it, you got to do it, you got to get it. That's how all that happened, because Charlie was truly attuned to this. They killed a future president. That's what they did. A man who would have made an excellent president, in my opinion. But it's a part of a criminal subculture that we saw in Charlotte, that we saw with another illegal arrested in Texas for beheading somebody. Why are they here? Someone else for raping a 5-year-old? And then in the city of Seattle, in their tent city, where they got all these crazy lunatics living, kind of like Portland. It's the shit city capital of the world. Seattle and Portland sort of compete for that honor. Also lots of Antifa. The biggest strong centers of Antifa in the United States is in Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, and other leftist cities, but those two in particular. And here you have a guy that's apparently raped a 5-year-old, and the judge let him out right away. Let him right back into the same tent city of homeless people.
What was his? Do we know the name offhand?
I read that detail because I had in the Benchoof case, the judge is continually trying to deny certain rights. Another lawyer was able to handle that last week. Because after Charlie was murdered, there was right outside that courthouse there was somebody holding up a sign saying how much they love the fact that Charlie Kirk was murdered. That gives you an idea how nuts that place has become. But Kurt Benchoof, what was Kurt Benchoof fighting against? He didn't want his prostitute ex-wife, or never ex-wife, but prostitute ex-girlfriend, who was involved in a lesbian relationship with a radicalized Antifa-type activist who is trying to turn their son into trans. That's what Kurt Benchoof was resisting. He was trying to prevent his son becoming the next Tyler Robinson. And the Seattle court system sent Kurt Benchoof to prison for 10 years for trying to resist it. Though that judge should be in a federal prison. A lot of these people are. They're finally discovering with Tina Peters what I've been advocating for forever. You can habeas her out. You can habeas Kurt Benschoof out. Any of these people that have been victimized by localized lawfare have evidence that can be used in a federal civil rights criminal investigation against government officials. Kurt Benschoof has that in Washington. Tina Peters has that in Colorado. Go and release them as necessary material witnesses whose lives are in danger and ability to testify honestly is jeopardized by their constant presence in state custodial facilities and state prisons. Get them out. Get them out now. And then put the entire state of Washington under criminal investigation in its government apparatus. There is nobody in the city of Seattle's government power structure that isn't a dangerous criminal. That's what I think Trump and other people are starting to realize, the scale of this. The depth of this. We need these people to experience what the Ku Klux Klan experienced in the post-Civil War era in the South. And we need to crush them once and for all like we did the Klan. And that requires cultural, political, and legal approaches. And hopefully that will be done so this horror nightmare doesn't continue unabated and drag us into a potential civil war, like the kind apparently the judge in New York thinks it was okay that Luigi was just trying to send a message and couldn't be held responsible for terroristic violence.
We'll get to that one in a second. Let me read a few of these. Shavetail says Alex Jones put up a close up of the murder on X. The way the shirt reacted would imply that he was wearing a 3A body armor. The entrance was upper chest, body armor redirected, also hitting the bone. Look, it's possible.
And that's that I heard that sounded like a very plausible explanation. But until we get all the autopsy evidence and all the forensic evidence, and some of that we may get delayed because of the trial, we can't know. But I encourage the government to be as forthcoming as possible so that there aren't lingering doubts about whether we've left a culprit get away with anything.
Yeah, well, but even that still fits with it was the shot from the guy. It just hit him in the chest and then maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that seemed to make a lot of sense. It was one of the big Second Amendment ballistic guys.
Yeah.
Paramore, I always get their names wrong.
Kyle Seraphin also his intel was that Charlie was wearing a vest, but
that's what I heard from other people. But until we get it all confirmed, then we don't know. And it's okay to ask questions. Just I see no reason whatsoever for Israel to murder Charlie Kirk. So all of the nutty Queen Candace is just the queen of the grifters. She's going to continue to be the queen of the grifters. She's going to always do things to aggrandize her own message. She's libeled people, members of our own board who were there that day, falsely labeled them somehow involved, which is totally false. That's who she is. I mean, she's a narcissistic grifter. She's the queen of the grifters. And as both of us at various levels have been critical, just like Charlie was, of aspects of Israel. But Charlie was a stronger Israeli advocate or defender than almost anybody, too. He was 80% of the time on Israel's side. 20% of the time wanted to restrain them from dumb stuff that could hurt America's interest and their own interest as he saw it. But the idea that he was a secret Israel critic is just nonsense. He was critical of excesses of Israel, which was absolutely but the idea that Israel would go and murder him here, see, when every answer to your theory is, it's the Jews, you probably lost the script. Not only that, if you don't like what Israel's doing, then you are giving Israel more political cover by falsely accusing them of being anywhere connected to this. You look like a lunatic, like an idiot, like an anti-Semitic Jew hater who can't be trusted on anything. So if you want Israel to restrain itself in Gaza and disagree with what they're doing in Gaza, then don't go pushing bogus conspiracy theories about Charlie Kirk's murder that have nothing to do with Israel.
Well, and it's a non-disprovable theory because the more evidence there is that it was this trans-loving triangle of a group, the better job Israel did at setting them up. So that you can never disprove it. But I think a lot of people have discredited themselves with that theory. But
and not only that, they're undermining the real problem of politicized violence in the trans Antifa world. They're minimizing it by saying, no, let's all blame the whole world on Israel. Every problem is Israel. Well, there's no other problem that exists in the world, just Israel.
The argument there is going to be that it was the Jews that started transgenderism in the first place. So one way or another, it goes back. I've heard it, and I appreciate who the...
See, that's when you should look in the mirror and say, I'm losing my mind. If you find yourself saying these things. And this is coming from someone who's been very high profile, critical of Israel for the last 6 months. getting taking all kinds of heat for it.
Yeah, Robert, you went from Zionist to anti-Semite like in the course of 2 months.
Yeah.
I'll read these real quick.
Now, one little tidbit on you. There is a foreign country tangential connection, as we predicted. Now, we don't know if there's any relationship to the assassination, but what are the odds that the assassin's uncle happens to be recruiting and connected to the real neo-Nazi Azov battalion of Ukraine?
Oh, the assassin's uncle. So Tyler Robinson's uncle
is directly tied to the Azov battalion of Ukraine. What are the odds of that? Now, that's a place I would still dig a little further, look a little longer. Because again, in Ukraine, they have created a culture of terroristic violence. They celebrate when they murdered the daughter of a journalist, of a foreign journalist, of a foreign speaker. Like the closest thing to Charlie that's happened globally in the last 10 years is the murder of Professor Dugin's daughter in Moscow. And this was by Ukraine. Ukraine thinks this is wonderful. They love terroristic violence. They're the most sick human beings on the planet are the people who run Ukraine. So that I think could, 95% chance it's just going to end up being the trans Antifa lunatic cult curated by the lunatics on the left and powers of social media cultural influence and the Reddit Discord crazies. Discord, by the way, lying about what was on Discord. No shock there. Reddit lying about what's on Reddit. Both of these places have widely censored conservatives, and yet they are the favorite spots for leftist violence to phone. But you can't completely ignore it. Remember, John Solomon said there was some sort of foreign intelligence connection. At some point, now the one place it's pointing ain't Israel, it's Ukraine.
Well, so I'm reading, I'm just fact-checking in real time. One article says it's not true, that Mike Robinson is not the uncle of the father, calls it Russian propaganda, which leads me to be skeptical of this qualification. And then the other one says on Twitter here, I'm going to see if, I'll find if it's been definitively
correct. I mean, at this point, it's just an allegation that is out there, but that would be a crazy connection. If that now again, it may be absolutely coincidental. So we don't know if there's any other connection, but it doesn't surprise me because of the trans involvement in Ukraine, the terroristic violence that Ukraine likes to celebrate. Charlie Kirk was on the Ukraine hit list. Imagine if Charlie Kirk was on an Israeli hit list, right? Then that'd be all they would be talking about. But they're not talking about him being on the Ukrainian hit list, and there have been multiple people murdered on that Ukrainian hit list by terroristic political violence. So that is the one area that I wouldn't foreclose completely.
And now I understand it. It's an actual post. It's an actual guy named Mike Robinson who is just claiming he's not Tyler Robinson's uncle, but he does have ties to the Azov battalion. So congratulations on that defense. Here, Robert, hold on. Let me bring up. It's going to get dark here, so maybe we're going to. I don't know how much we have left.
Yeah, we got a few more topics. We got the Fed governor. We got Comey suing. We got Luigi. We got the media versus AI and Big Fanny losing. Most of those will be pretty quick. Bam, 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 bam.
Let me get through some chat here. They say Tucker's anti-Semitic while backing the side that says from the river to the sea. Considering this is a legal case, I don't expect much disclosure, says Schvantz. Shofar says, I am concerned about the sleeper cells in the United States.
Me too. I think they've used the trans community through Antifa to create a bunch of terror cells of potential violence everywhere in the United States. Yeah. And I think every community should be looking at those people. Look at the Antifa-connected people, the radical left. And here's the thing. Joe Biden gave us the roadmap. Right? Look at all the things that the Biden administration was doing in terms of social media monitoring, FBI investigation, saying people are getting radicalized for politicized violence. They were just looking at the wrong place. The place was the left to look. But they were confessing through projecting. They were giving us the roadmap. We can just use it. Terrorism enhancements to take small crimes into 20-year crimes. That's what they did for January 6th.
Yep.
Well, Merry Christmas, Antifa. You get it for you because that's what it was intended for to begin with.
Lolly Newbie says fluid mechanics, shoot a guy into water, fire rifle into pool of blood. It hit one of the thickest blood vessels. Quasit says, last week I commented on the other passengers not helping Zarutska. At the time I had not seen the extended footage. I just wanted to say thank you both for letting me know that they did indeed help her. Yeah, it was like 30 seconds to 60 seconds after. I have seen that footage, upset it wasn't widespread, and have had a small amount of my faith in humanity restored. Ithaca 37K, so 2 questions. Have you reviewed the charges against Tom Homan? I heard this bribery charge, but I'll get there. Ideologies aside, how is the corrupt playbook of today's far-left Democrats similar, different from the old playbook of Jim Crow KKK?
Oh, it's the same. It just took a different form.
We need legal analysis as to how TPUSA can bring. We did that already, and if they have not grown up, they can challenge it. Hans. Here we go. Rose City Antifa was founded by following who imported Europe Antifa and now live overseas. That's from Fihans. And then we got this thing here. Oh, that's Andy No who's exposing it. Okay, and then
and he's doing great, and he's been highlighting how organized. Remember, for those that don't know, Andy No, was a journalist in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah,
beaten, assaulted, almost murdered by Antifa. I represented Mike Strickland in Antifa, who, when he tried to defend himself from before getting beat up again by Antifa, Portland sent Mike Strickland to jail. I mean, this has been an out-of-control problem for a long time, and it's time to quit letting political correctness inhibit us at all. We've got to crack down and shut this down immediately, or it will get out of hand very fast. Oh, you're on mute, Viva.
Crush it before it metastasizes, if it hasn't already, was my deep thought. Randy Edwards says there may be high-profile late-night comedian with Italian citizenship who recently opined his interest in repatriotism to Italy, who should be investigated as an Antifa operative. Who is that? Karen Toss says Candace Owens is lost in the wilderness of mirrors. Yeah. Harry Toe says, I work for Seattle area government. My director celebrated and had to apologize to people. Oh, she should be fired. A forensic specialist talks about the wound from Charlie Kirk's injury on her YouTube channel. Lauren, the mortician, e-tailer.
Oh, that'd be good. You get a crash course in ballistics. It's one of the utilities of being a lawyer in these kind of cases. You become an expert in all kinds of wild and crazy things. Yeah. What was the weirdest thing you became an expert in order to do your job as a lawyer?
Foundational stuff for landlord-tenant disputes. Where I found out, I went into an apartment building where they built 7 floors. They installed 7 floors on top of old floors instead of just straightening out the old floor. But and the horse case that I had, I think, was also.
What was the horse case?
It was an equestrian. Jeez, I gotta refresh my memory. Hold on, I'm gonna refresh it while I read this.
Yeah, no problem.
Reach out to Detective Richard High, Angry Cops on YouTube. What's going on in Buffalo Public Schools? Manat says some of the language oddities could be attributed to translation of obscure chat language for public understanding. Tin Stacks. I've been awakened for 24 years by AJ, and I feel compelled to call for unity with public trials and public punishment. Thank you, Viva and Barnes. Harry Toe. I'm glad everyone took a moment to mourn and everyone is back to work. It was a long week. FCC. It was very tough. The backdrop looks like Squid Game, says the 113. I get it, and it's someone said it looked like a public bathroom. It's not that either. Giant Weenus says, is the FCC consumer guide broadcasting false information applicable to lies?
I think so. When you get an FCC license, you have a public interest obligation. This was the point Commissioner Cox was making, that the media was trying to make a big deal. That's always been the case. We've just never enforced it against these lunatics.
What do you think? Well, I'll get to the equal airtime for The View. Antifa likes to call everyone Nazis, but they fly the same colors. Says Hitler was a vegetarian. I fear we're now at the point, if there is another school shooting, some leftists will offer up a child from a conservative home as a first victim. McCarthy was right. Update on Dree's page. I got that. Robert, equal airtime. They've raised the argument for The View that they have to offer equal airtime because it's a news outlet, and they've had on 9 Democrat politicians since January, but 0 Republicans. But that the equal airtime doesn't apply to comedy,
right.
Commentary,
or certain kinds of commentary shows.
Yeah. So
equal airtime is news that you're not supposed to on your news channel. Of course, they don't do news anymore, but what they pretend is their news portion of their entertainment, infotainment production is where the equal time requirement can be triggered. The goal was that anybody that gets an FCC license wouldn't leverage that to favor one party over another in an election. That's where the equal time rule kind of comes from. But I think their argument is pretty weak. Now, speaking of political permission slip problems, you saw no better. It was amazing, especially in the middle of this. You have a state court judge come in and say, little Luigi. For those that don't know, Luigi's the man who shot down a man in cold blood on the streets of New York because he was an executive of an insurance company. That was it. There was nothing. There was no indirect. There's no personal history between Luigi and the man he murdered. Nothing else. Nothing specific. It was just he was the CEO of United Insurance Company. Luigi didn't like insurance companies, so he murdered the executive, and plenty of lefties cheered for it. That was the first sign that we had a lunatic, violent problem that could explode at any moment. In fact, one of the people warning about it was Charlie Kirk, because you saw it with the violence against Elon Musk, the violence against To his credit, Richard Barris is going to be doing. We're going to work together to do a big, broad poll survey on how big is this? What is the scale? What is it? It's already funded thanks to the Public Polling Project, all the people out there that helped. Richard's doing it just at cost. Usually, it means he's taking money out of his own pocket to help out. He always does that. That's Richard to help document and detail this. But in Luigi's case, the judge's logic was some of the most distorted logic I think I've ever heard. What it really shows you is the judge, the state court judge presiding. Now, Luigi's facing state charges and federal charges. So this was the state court judge. Remember, 21 states plus the District of Columbia have their own terror charges. So when you see liberal lawyers and legal scholars, there's no such thing as domestic terror. Yes, there is. It's just under state law rather than federal law. And federal law coordinates domestic terror organizations to work with state law enforcement agencies to use the state terror laws combined with federal civil rights laws to work together in criminal prosecutions and investigations. So the idea that there's no significance, no consequence, no meaning to domestic terror organization is completely false. But what Luigi did, so New York has one of those laws, and the question at this stage was solely, is there any evidence that a jury could conclude, because this is a motion to dismiss stage, way before there's no evidence even been presented yet. It's just, is there any evidence at all in the record? Is there any accusation at all in the complaint, in the information, in the indictment, that a jury could conclude that Luigi did this to quote, to intimidate or coerce?
I mean, to the extent he didn't say anything, that was the narrative. That was what they were celebrating.
Yeah.
And just to bring up Charlie Kirk's.
In fact, she even admitted this, by the way. The judge wrote it. She said he was clearly trying to send a message and trying to get a message sent.
But it was
and trying
not political.
To change public opinion.
But this was Charlie Kirk's tweet from a while back. How long ago? April, not that long ago. Assassination culture is spreading on the left. 48% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same about Donald Trump. California activists are naming ballot measures after Luigi Mangione. He was right.
He nailed it. And they murdered him for it. So to me, that judge's state court, thank God, in this instance, Bondi did her job and prosecuted him federally, because we can see that the state, if they could find a way to help him walk, would. That's how insane these judges are. Because you could tell this judge was sympathetic. By the way, she wrote, he was trying to send a message, but it was just about the out-of-control cost in the insurance industry. Okay, it doesn't matter what the substance of the message is. Was he doing something for politicized purposes to influence people's political future decision-making? I think murdering someone for the purpose of sending a message probably constitutes an effort to change what happens in public policy. I mean, isn't that a reasonable inference? Couldn't a jury at least possibly reasonably infer that from the accusations and the evidence? And yet this judge is not even allowing the terrorism charge to go forward, because I suspect if you underneath that judge's robe, you probably found a free Luigi t-shirt. That's the mindset of these insane people. They're in positions of their judges, their teachers, their professors. They are a threat, an imminent, clear, and present danger to the American Constitution and our Republican liberty. And this ludicrous ruling is the latest version of that. But it won't matter for Luigi, because he's going to face federal charges where none of that nonsense is likely to get by, as he has so far with the state.
All right, amazing. What do we have left? We should head over.
We got a quartet of cases left. We got Big Fanny losing. We got the Fed Reserve governor wins by a split decision with the D.C. Court of Appeals, so now it's going up to SCOTUS. We got the media against AI. Who do the corrupt Democratic judges side with? Big tech? No. Big media? No. Big tech? No. Big. It's going to be tough, Pontius Pilate. It's going to be a little Solomonic choice there for those dear judges. And last but not least, Maureen Comey sues, because clearly she was the greatest and most honorable and most well-respected cover-up prosecutor of sex offenders in the history of America. And as such, she should be celebrated for it. And President Trump is just firing her solely because her last name is Comey, not because she's one of the most crooked prosecutors to walk the face of the earth. So that's our quartet of cases left, but all pretty quick.
Yeah, so let's do that over on locals, because we won't be able to have much. I'm fading fast in terms of energy. Oh, Robert, like the food. So you couldn't bring in any water. You couldn't bring in any food. So we had to wait 6 hours. And then all they have is pretzels and hot dogs at the stadium. Ugh. And, okay, so local. Robert, what do you have coming up this week?
So I will be, let's see, it's a chance I have to be up in Pennsylvania. But if not, Then we'll have bourbons all week. May have a show with Richard Barris on Monday. Not sure what his plans are yet. That might be another couple of Mondays away. Going to wait and see. I'll wait. But so may have something with Richard Barris. Might have something pretty soon with the Duran. Might do something on all of this with the Duran. Both of the Alexes have spoken very sympathetically about Charlie. I know I heard from both of them, and they were both shocked because they also understand how this can. Because people who study global geopolitics and all of world history and the details of Europe in particular in the 20th century. I mean, Alexander Macoris grew up during the coups in Greece that he and part of his family had to flee. I mean, he was kind of like the Macoris family name is like the George Washingtons of Greece. But he had to leave and go to Britain because of everything he saw. You know, at 8 years old, he still remembers seeing Robert Kennedy Sr. assassinated. And because Robert Kennedy Sr. was seen as the great hope for Greece. So might have something with the Duran, might have something with Richard Barris. But we'll have throughout the week bourbons at vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
All right, and we're going to go raid Badlands Media because they do good work. So raid him, let him know from whence he came, and send a little Viva love. And let's just see, we have raided Viva Raid Booyah. They are talking about the sovereign mind. I don't know what they're talking about, but they're good. They do good work. So go check them out. And let's go have our locals after party. YouTube, before you go, subscribe, turn on notifications, share my last video, and Rumble, you guys already know what to do. Locals, here we come. Oh, and I'll probably miss the show tomorrow because I'm going to be in transit, and it's the first day it's Rosh Hashanah, so I think we have to have a family dinner. So might not have a show tomorrow. Don't be disappointed if we don't. Back to schedule Tuesday, and it's going to be a good one. So we head over to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Peace out, peeps.